Hey folks, this is Hannah. I am Career Sherpa and I'm here for a job search live and we're going to be talking in just a few minutes, but I wanted um, to just pop in and say hi. If you're here with me now, can you just let me know in the comments? That would be great. It's always fun to see who's here. And we're going to be talking about Summary Sunday, so I'm going to be sure to put a link to that in the comments so that you can follow along if you haven't read it already. There we go. I'm excited to be talking to you all today. The Summary Sunday was called Changing Jobs, pretty straightforward, and it had some really interesting articles. I hope you thought so too. So we'll talk about those. If you're just logging in now or just coming in, um, let me know that you're here in the comments. Hey Andy, good to see you. Thanks for being here. Hey Andy, did you have a favorite article this week? Did you read any of them? We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Welcome everybody. If you're just joining me, this is Hannah Morgan, Career Sherpa, and we are talking about the Summary Sunday from yesterday. This is called Job Search Live, and we're going to get going in about a minute. You're welcome, Andy. Just checking in. Hello, Marina. Thanks for joining us here today. Glad to have you here. Thanks for being here. All right, well, we're on. It's up on noon, and welcome everybody to Job Search Live. My name is Hannah Morgan. I'm the Career Sherpa, and every Monday I have been going live to recap the articles that I shared in my Summary Sunday because one of the things that I want to do is help you understand why I think they're important to your job search and put some context around that. So this week's Summary Sunday was called Changing Jobs Requires a Plan. And I know you know that it's not rocket science, but the articles that I shared sort of will help you build a plan in different areas of your job search. The very first article was called 10 Steps to a Successful Career Change, and that was on the balanced career. Oh, yeah, and let me say one other thing. If you find an article in my Summary Sunday one week that you like, I highly recommend that you either follow the author on LinkedIn or subscribe to the newsletter so that you yourself can keep up with some of the articles. I know it might be a lot of work. You may just want to bookmark the website or the blog that produces the content because the articles that I share tend to come from the same people on a rotating basis. In other words, they're people, they're resources that I trust and regularly resort to, and I hope you do too. Coming up soon, I will be republishing, re-updating my best of job search websites list, which will probably have some new additions this year based on some of the articles that I've been sharing. But that's basically, I like to create a list of authoritative sources that I use, and I share that with you because there are so many choices and there's so much information floating out there. When you just Google stuff, you don't necessarily find the right stuff. Okay, so having said that, the Balanced Careers published this article called 10 Steps to a Successful Career Change, and it's not rocket science. And there was a nice graphic, and it laid it out really concretely. So let me just spell it out for you if you need more help going through that. Any of these steps, there's more information and resources in the article on the balance. So, number one, and I love the way the fact that they led with this, assess your interests and skills. If you haven't done that yet, you can't pass go and collect $200. You've got to go back. That's the very first thing that has to happen. Then consider alternative careers. So if you have always been a project manager and you don't want to do that or it's not fulfilling any longer, this would be a really good time to investigate, consider alternative careers. And then you want to reach out and do informational interviews where you have conversations. And I don't like the word or the term informational interviews. I prefer informational meetings. I just think it's a much less disgusting term to use because essentially what an informational meeting is, it's you having a conversation with somebody who holds a job that you are interested in. And those can be tricky to get. They're probably going to last about 15, 20, maybe 30 minutes. But in many cases, you're reaching out to somebody you don't know that well and saying to them, I'd love to have a conversation because you hold a job that I am interested in getting into, but I don't know a lot about it. And I'm hoping that you can share with me your career path, how you got into this field, the things that you like most about it, the things you don't like, and maybe you can provide me with some recommendations on how I might get started in that kind of field. The next thing is to potentially spend some time job shadowing. Hopefully you could do that if that's a hard thing to do. In the pre-COVID days, it was much a little more easy to do. A job shadow is where you say to somebody, oh, I'd love to come in and follow you around, get an idea of what a day in the life of what you do is like. You may not actually be able to sit right behind them, but they may be able to introduce you, give a tour of their facility. Certain people love doing that. Volunteer in the field. So let's say that you want to get into event management, which probably wouldn't be the greatest thing to do right now, but maybe that's your field, what you want to do, then maybe you can look into volunteering for an organization where you can do event management. And of course, right now that's going to be all online event management. But volunteering, a lot of times companies or organizations want volunteers. And the last thing that you should consider to help you make that career shift to a new field is to understand what skills are required, necessary, needed in that job and make sure that you build those skills, whether it's taking online classes or going back to school or even just reading up. Depending on what that gap looks like for you, those are the things that you should do. So that was that article in a nutshell, the 10 steps. I just went through six of them, but there are more, and you can read that full article. But I love saying that this isn't rocket science. Like, if you're interested in changing careers, that's what you want to do. Um, yeah, you're welcome, Mindy. And Michael, hi. Heidi, hi. Thanks for being here. Diane, thanks for being here. I love doing these live things. It gives me a little bit of a chance to interact with people. Wayne, hey, great to see you. Victoria, good to see you too. Thank you all for being here. The next article that was in the Summary Sunday was How to Fight Back Against Job Search Fatigue. And let me tell you that job search fatigue is real. And I might go as far as to say I've seen job search depression. But in this article that Andrew Seaman wrote, it's actually part of his newsletter. And let me go back and say, if you enjoy the Get Hired article that is in the Summary Sunday, you can subscribe and get that directly in your own inbox. When you click on the article, there's an option to subscribe. So don't be afraid to get this information directly. I'm sure that all of these people would appreciate that, and you might find it before I do. So, job search fatigue is that stuff that happens where you just don't feel like doing it anymore. You're tired of the rejection, you're tired of the not hearing back, you're tired of people, ghosting you. It's all of that stuff, and it's all very real. It's all very normal. In the article How to Fight Back, they talk a little bit about why this happens because so much of um, our self-value, our self-worth, our feelings are tied to our work identity, and when we lose that job, we lose a sense of our identity, and that's really too bad. We will all. If we have a, if this is your first time being laid off, gosh darn it, you're lucky. If you've been through this before, you know how painful it is, but you know there's also a light at the end of the tunnel. And so this article just helps you understand a little bit more about what is this job search fatigue? What is causing it? It's all very predictable. In fact, the woman that Andrew Seaman interviewed, Dawn Norris, wrote a book about job loss, identity, and mental health because it's such a problem and it's such an important topic. I'm hoping that you take a minute and read that, and maybe you will find some tips because there are some tips in there that are given to help you maybe overcome some of the fatigue. Simple things like setting up a routine can be really helpful in feeling like you're not in this slump. And the key is to just keep moving, right? And that's the hard thing. I know. I know. So that's about job search fatigue. The next article is Fast Formula for a Powerful LinkedIn Professional Headline, and this is not a new article, but it is so well written and it's such a great resource. Laura Smith Pruill is a writer, and a resume writer and LinkedIn profile writer, and she also writes for jobhunt.org. And I love this because it's really a formula. Okay, here Part one is add your target job title. Part two is add your primary industry. Part three is pull in your strongest areas of expertise. And part four is add a signature achievement. Ta-da! There you go. There's the four-part formula. And if you go look at her post, you will actually see samples of how that looks and what that looks like. It's just really, really beneficial. And the challenge is, you've got only have 220 characters, and you can't fit all the information in there. So you do have to do some editing and wordsmithing to make that happen. But it's a really solid formula. You may not have all of those elements either, but you want to include as much as you possibly can. So I really have always liked that. I think in one of my blog posts actually about writing a LinkedIn headline, I reference that article because it is so well done. Um, so there we go. There's that. Um, okay. Now the next article is how to rank higher in LinkedIn search results. And this is one of those things where we think we all know it's all about using keywords, but you know what? It's more than that. Bruce Johnston is somebody you should be following on LinkedIn. He has a newsletter, which is where this came from. It's called Using LinkedIn Effectively. And he talks about there are a couple of factors that really help determine where you rank in LinkedIn search results. And relevancy is sort of the name of the game. In other words, what is in your LinkedIn profile is relevant to what the search terms were that the person is looking for. But more than that, the most important factor is your connection to the searcher. So whoever's searching, if you're a second degree or a third degree, you're less likely to show up in their search results than if you are a first degree. So let me just ask you what the takeaway is from that. I'm going to let you think about that for a second. If what determines more than any other factor is your relevancy to the searcher, your connection level to the searcher, those people with a very small network are going to have problems because they don't have as many people they are connected to, even on a second or third degree level. And what Bruce is not suggesting that you willy-nilly go connect with a lot of people. Actually, what he is suggesting is that you lessen your criteria. For those of you who said, I'm never going to connect with somebody unless I have met them in person first, you may want to, for a period of time, abandon that principle and connect with more people that are at least in your industry or in that are doing work that is of interest to you so that you can get to know them. So give that a try and see if that might be give your profile a boost. The next article is not really even an article. I shared on LinkedIn last week a 10 steps to prepare for the job interview, and it really was just an infographic. It was something that you could print on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, and it was all the steps that you need to take to prepare for an interview. And I had so many people write in the comments, those are, didn't know it, but those are the exact same steps that I followed that helped me get my job or that helped me prepare for a job. I will say that most people don't take all of these 10 steps. And I was just listening to a LinkedIn Live this morning with Austin Belkak and what was her name? Amy Volchak, Amy Volsar, maybe it was Amy Volsar. And they were talking about the fact that she was saying that if you go into an interview with this mindset of, I'm going to wing it and see how I do, you're not prepared. Even if you do some preliminary research, that's not enough. You really need to go through all 10 of these steps. And she didn't reference my 10 steps, but she was talking about the things that really prepared candidates do to prepare for an interview. And you really just can't wing it. You need to spend more time investing in your research of the company. So does that make sense to folks that are you spending enough time preparing for upcoming interviews? You may not have an upcoming interview, but you can take a lot of these steps right now that don't require company research. You can practice interviewing. You can draft general questions that are good that you've come across. If you do the legwork and get sort of the basic template of what you're going to do during an interview together, it saves you so much time. So I'm hoping that you might do that. For those of you that have heard of or not heard of the Pomodoro Technique, Career Metis wrote an article about how to use it to work more effectively. In essence, the Pomodoro Technique uses you use a timer and you work in timed spurts. And that helps you stay focused on track and builds in more accountability that you have to get your work done within that segment of time. So it's a been used for a long time by a large number of people to get people to work more effectively. And if you haven't heard of it, it's a great tool and you don't need a fancy timer, just any old timer will work. The next article is from Briefcase Sarah Johnston, Briefcase Coach, and it is Am I Depressed? No Motivation to Job Search. Every once in a while, Sarah will take a question that she gets from a client or from somebody in her network, and in this case, the person wrote in saying, I just don't have I don't have the motivation. I lost my job back in June. I knew it was coming. Our company had been on the decline for a year, and the COVID was the nail in the coffin. Even though I had time to mentally prepare for job search, I currently feel so overwhelmed by my circumstances. So, uh, it's such a common sad feeling. And so what's great about this article that Sarah wrote was not only that it validates some of the things that you're feeling, but Sarah provided a lot of resources that job seekers can use to help dig their way out of this feeling of depression or situational depression, because situational depression is real. I remember I was working at a career center, and we had a job club networking group that would meet once a week. And it was really pretty closely monitored. People had to show up every week, or at least if they didn't show up, they had to call in or email in and tell us what they'd worked on so they weren't missed. And there was one guy who um, just one day stopped coming to these meetings. He didn't email anybody, he didn't let anybody know. But then I thought back, and we reached out to him time and time again. We called him, we emailed him, and he wasn't responding. And then I started thinking about, okay, what was going on prior? Was there something that happened in his life that made him stop coming? Did we do something wrong? And then I remembered that probably 2 weeks before he stopped coming, he came to the meeting without shaving, and he was in sweatpants. And he came to the both of the last two meetings not shaven and wearing sweatpants. And then I thought to myself, maybe he is depressed. Maybe he just can't get out of the house because he's feeling so down and blue. Um, we never really knew what happened to him. He never responded to our emails or our phone calls. But I share this because situational depression with job search is a real thing. It happens. And in Sarah's article, she does provide free support for depression, links to various resources that are available, and some research that helps you understand that it is a real thing. And then she makes recommendations about books for job loss. And then she does also provide some other thoughts on beating job hunting depression because it's real. But sometimes joining a group with other job seekers or even just a group of people who are in depression can help lift you out and make you feel less alone, because that's one of the things that happens. It becomes this self-fulfilling cycle of depression. You can't get out of it because you feel depressed. And when you feel depressed, you don't feel like being around anybody. When you don't feel like being around anybody, you feel more depressed and so on and so forth. So it's a very real thing, and I don't wish it on my worst enemy because it's a terrible feeling and it's hard to get out of. But her article is about some of the resources for help. So, um, I also included a link to an article that I wrote about how to use LinkedIn to find a job. And it isn't about how to find a job on the LinkedIn job board. It goes beyond that. And I hope you found that helpful as well. There was also, I did a LinkedIn Live on Friday with Sonal Ball, and we got into the Christmas spirit a little bit. She had her holiday sweater on, and I had my antlers on, and we had a great conversation about some of the job search stuff that we wanted to make sure people knew. So that's a replay that's available for you to watch anytime. And the last thing that I will sort of give a plug for is that tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be speaking to a job club that's based in the Columbus, Ohio area, but they have made their meetings all virtual now. So if you want to join me, I'm going to be talking about a marketing resource, marketing tools job seekers can use to help stand out. So that is tomorrow at 9 a.m. And then later this week on Thursday and Friday, I hope you all have signed up for the what's it called? The Career Relaunch Summit that is being hosted by Diana YK Chan, My Marketability. I have it's been in the footer. There've been some information. I've sent out some information in my newsletter about that, and I've been sharing it on social media. But the nice thing about this is that it's a completely free event. You just register, and you can pick the events that you want to go to. If you can't make a particular time slot on Thursday or Friday because you've got something already planned, that's okay. You will receive a recording. You will at least have access to the recording of all the presentations. So there's some really cool ones. How to pivot into a new role, how to use personal psychology to uncover your strengths, the benefits of career clarity, top three career change mistakes and how to avoid them, how to land your dream job without applying online by Austin Belkat. I'm presenting It's Time to Do More to Visually Showcase Your Value. Building a six-figure coaching business, how to stand out online, why most job seekers are linked out. They're Adrian Tom, common resume mistakes and how to fix them. Andrew Seaman is going to be talking No Two Paths Are the Same. Kamara Toffolo, pro tips for pandemic job searching. Carrie Twig, how to find your career stories. There's a lot of really good stuff going on the Thursday and Friday this week that all is free. All you have to do is add your email and you're registered for the event, so I highly recommend that you do that. Um, Let me find the link and I will put it right here in the comments. There you go. It's in there. That's in there. The link to the other event, I'm not sure I have that up. Mm, it's in LinkedIn. I shared it on LinkedIn. Did I share it? I'll see if I can find the event tomorrow. But while I'm searching for that, can you type in any questions you might have, so that I can answer them before we leave for the day? And here is the event that is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. That's in the comments now too. Ability Professional Network. So both of those are free, no charge. You just need to sign up or follow the link. I think even the ability tomorrow morning, the Tuesday tune-up, I think all you have to do is click on that link at 9 o'clock in the morning, enter the PIN code, and you're good to go. So glad you liked it, Victoria. Does anyone have any questions or anything they want to say before I sign off for the week? Any other thoughts? Hey, I hope you saw today's article too, which are three um, attention-grabbing resume supplements. So I write about three examples of really cool things I saw over the last couple of weeks that have to do with presenting yourself without using a resume. And so that's part of what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow morning and with Diana as well. So if there aren't any other questions, comments, thoughts, I want to thank you all for being here. Have a wonderful week. Make it happen. Take action, and I will see you next Monday. All right? Have a good one.